Good morning and a very warm welcome. This is the Breakfast Rundown on TV1. I'm Therunee Karunaratne. We're coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. As always, right here on the Breakfast Rundown, we have several key local as well as international and sports news items this morning. Stay tuned with us. We have all the news in detail. Let's move on to the top local story for this morning. As we know, President Samura Ariya is currently on a 4-day official visit to China. He arrived in China yesterday morning on a 4-day state visit. He is undertaking this visit at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping. President Ariya is also the first head of state to visit China this year. President Samura Ariya, who embarked on a state visit to China at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping, arrived at the Beijing International Airport at approximately 10:25 a.m. yesterday. He was received with full military honors by Chinese Deputy Foreign Minister. During this state visit, President Ariya is scheduled to participate in several sectoral tours focusing on technological and agricultural development as well as poverty alleviation. He will also attend high-level business meetings. Additionally, several bilateral agreements are expected to be signed during President AKD's visit to China. This marks President Ariya's second foreign visit since assuming office. The visit, which commenced yesterday, will conclude on the 17th of January. Accompanying the President on this visit are Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism Vijay Therath, Minister of Transport, Highways, Ports and Civil Aviation Bimal Ratnayake, Chinese Ambassador to Sri Lanka Ki Zeng Hong and Sri Lankan Ambassador to China Manjitha Jayasinghe. Let's move on to another local news item for this morning. Around 200 residents of Sudwalla in Samapura, Ampara have been relocated to the Mahavapi Vihara. This relocation commenced last evening when the sluice gates of the Ampara reservoir were opened. Due to the risk of water overflow caused by the erosion of river banks in the Galloya, residents of Sudwalla were relocated to the Mahavapi Vihara as per instructions of the Ampara District Secretary. Now, although there was a decrease in rainfall in the area by this morning, the heavy rainfall experienced in the region last evening raised concerns of a flood situation, which led to the relocation of the residents in the area. And in the weather update for this morning, the Met Department has issued 2 advisories, one being for heavy rainfall and the other being for strong winds and rough seas. Taking a look at the advisory for heavy rainfall, due to the active northeast monsoon conditions, prevailing showery conditions in the island are likely to continue further during the next 24 hours. Heavy showers about 150 millimeters can be expected at some places in the eastern, over northern and north central provinces as well as in the Hambantota district. Fairly heavy showers of about 75 millimeters are likely at some places elsewhere over the island. And as always, the general public is requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. Let's now take a look at the advisory for strong winds and rough seas that was also issued by the Met Department. The sea areas of the coast extending from Colombo to Kankasanpure via Putlam and Mana will be rough at times with strong gusty winds of up to 50 to 60 kilometers per hour, and the naval and fishing communities are requested to be attentive in this regard. Well, meanwhile, a shooting has taken place this morning targeting a residence in Amuhena, Dodamgoda in Kalutara. Police say that no one was injured. The reason behind the shooting has not yet been revealed. Investigations into the incident are underway. On to more local news for this morning. Deputy Minister of Ports and Civil Aviation Ruan Kodituaku says that several additional locations have been introduced at the Colombo port for container storage. He adds that as a result, the congestion of containers on shipments has now been significantly reduced. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka Customs reported that 472 containers were cleared from the main yard yesterday, which was, of course, the Thai Pongal holiday. According to Customs, a total of 547 containers were cleared from the port yesterday. As a result, a significant number of containers that were stuck in the port were able to be cleared within a span of 24 hours. Additionally, Deputy Minister Therunee Karunaratne said that today there will be a discussion to review the progress of the decision made under the leadership of the President last Sunday to expedite the container clearance at the Colombo port. Now, meanwhile, the Ministry of Trade, Commerce and Food Security has decided to establish 160 small-scale rice mills. Deputy Minister R.M. Jayawardena says that the machinery for these rice mills have already been imported to the country. Each of these rice mills will have the capacity to produce 5,000 kilograms of rice daily. These rice mills are intended to be provided to women's organizations. The Deputy Minister also adds that subsequently they will manage the production of activities, and it is hoped that this initiative will help in empowering women entrepreneurs. Shifting your attention to news overseas for this morning, our first international news item comes in from South Korea. South Korea last month was plunged into deep political turmoil due to impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol's short-lived attempt to impose martial law in the country. This is the latest update in that regard. South Korean investigators are trying once more to arrest impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol following a failed attempt earlier this month. Investigators are trying again after a court granted them an extension to extend their previous warrant. He is being investigated on charges of insurrection following a short-lived attempt to impose the martial law in December 2024. According to foreign media reports, crowds can be seen outside Yoon's officials' residence, filled with both supporters and critics of Yoon, along with about 1,000 police officers deployed at the scene. Lawyers for Yoon, who have been arguing with the police, previously criticized the plan to use police officers in the arrest, calling it a betrayal of the public. Yoon's impeachment trial, which will decide if he is removed from office, started yesterday, however, ended within 4 minutes because of his absence. Meanwhile, Kim Sang-hoon, the acting head of the Presidential Security Service, has also been arrested. Since investigators' last attempt to arrest Yoon was foiled by the PSS, Kim defied multiple orders from the police to be questioned on charges of obstruction. The PSS has also been obstructing today's arrest attempt. According to a statement from acting President Choi Sang-mok, conflict between state institutions is unacceptable and would result in harm to the public's trust. He is referring to the standoff between investigators attempting to arrest Yoon and his Presidential Security Service, also known as PSS. Choi says the execution of the arrest warrant for President Yoon has commenced and describes it as a critical moment for maintaining order and the rule of law in South Korea. He urges all parties to act with careful judgment and responsible behavior, adding that people who violate the law will be held accountable. Let's move on to the second international news item for this morning. It's coming in from the Middle East. Negotiators were near to hammering out the final details of a ceasefire in Gaza today after marathon talks in Qatar, and the US and Egyptian leaders promised to stay in close contact about a deal over the coming few hours. More than 8 hours of talks in Doha had fueled optimism regarding this topic. Officials from mediators Qatar, Egypt, and the US, as well as Israel and Hamas, said an agreement for a truce in the besieged enclave and the release of hostages was closer than ever. Qatar's foreign ministry spokesperson earlier told a news conference that both sides were presented with a text and talks on the last details were underway. Let's take a look.
كما يمكن تأكيده طبعا نعم أنه تم تسليم المسودات إلى الطرفين. نعم تم تذليل الصعوبات أمام القضايا الرئيسية العالقة بين الطرفين، ونعم تجري الآن المحادثات حول التفاصيل النهائية، ولكن لا يمكننا إعطاء أي تفاصيل حول طبيعة هذه التفاصيل التي تتحدث عنها أو أين تقف اليوم هذه المحادثات، إلا أن نقول أننا يعني تجاوزنا العقبات الرئيسية في الخلافات بين الطرفين. الاجتماعات الآن جارية هنا في الدوحة بين الأطراف، أو يعني كما تعلمون بشكل غير مباشر، ولكن الاجتماعات الآن هي في حالة انعقاد، والأطراف جميعا هنا موجودة في الدوحة مثل كل جولات المفاوضات السابقة، ونترقب تحديثات من طرفهم يعني في أقرب الآجال.
Well, that was Qatar's foreign ministry spokesperson speaking about this potential ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. However, a senior Hamas official told foreign media late yesterday that the Palestinian group had not yet delivered its response because it was waiting for Israel to submit maps showing how its forces would withdraw from Gaza. US President Joe Biden, whose administration has been taking part alongside an envoy of President-elect Donald Trump, said a deal was close. Biden and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi talked about the progress in the negotiations yesterday. The two presidents, quote-unquote, emphasized the urgent need for a deal to be implemented. Hamas said the talks had reached the final steps and it hoped this round of negotiations would lead to a deal. And in your sports update for this morning, ICC releasing an official statement announced the men's and women's players for the month of December 2024. Accordingly, Indian star pacer Jasprit Bumrah has triumphed over strong competition to win the ICC Men's Player of the Month award for December 2024. Bumrah's exceptional performances during India's tour of Australia in December 2024 has earned him the ICC Men's Player of the Month award, beating off competition from Pat Cummins and Dane Patterson. Over 3 test matches, Bumrah claimed an impressive 22 wickets at an astonishing average of 14.22, single-handedly spearheading India's bowling attack. Meanwhile, Australia's Annabel Sutherland's outstanding all-round performances have earned her the ICC Women's Player of the Month award for December 2024. Annabel Sutherland shone brightly for Australia in December 2024, playing a pivotal role as her team remained unbeaten across 5 ODIs, 3 against India and 2 against New Zealand. Now, her exceptional performances earned her 3 Player of the Match awards and the Player of the Series title for both these series. Sutherland amounts 269 runs during the month, highlighted by 2 brilliant centuries, a commanding 110 against India in Perth and an unbeaten 105 against New Zealand in Wellington. She finished with an impressive batting average of 67.25 and a strike rate of 113.98. Well, that brings to a close this morning's edition of the Breakfast Rundown on TV1. I'm Therunee Karunaratne. I'll see you once again right here on TV1 at 7 a.m. tomorrow as well. Until then, take care. Have a wonderful day ahead.